And lyrically, you're in a scene where a lot of people talk about champagne, bitches, bottles popping and all that, right? You're standing out because you're different.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to like make other people follow suit?
Definitely, because people, the industry sway wherever's what's selling records, and being myself and being original, that will always, be in the forefront is people going out there and supporting the music. So I'm sure, the industry will be looking for more artists that's really in depth, and want to have something original to bring to the game.
Awesome. So when you talk about the universe, do you believe that like whatever you put out, you get back?
Definitely. When I was 9 years old, I looked in the mirror and I said I want to be better than Tupac. Yeah,
Do you reckon that can happen?
that will happen eventually because it got me to the place now where people are calling me, the hip hop messiah of the industry. Yeah,
That's a big title.
very big.
Big boots to fill. Do you ever get nervous?
Not nervous, more excited, to see what I'm capable of doing. I grow every day, so every time I go in that studio or do something, I really shock myself, before the world can even get to it.
Who inspires you in the world?
Life, just in general. What inspires me? Life, family, you, the people in that crowd. Just experiences. Me talking to you, coming from Compton, is a great feeling.
Kendrick, it's awesome speaking to you. Good luck with everything. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Yes, thank you.
Peace and love, y'all. We're back for part 2 of How to Decipher Poetic Justice, and today's presentation is titled Looking in the Mirror. You can expect us to take a deep dive into the connection between Poetic Justice the music video, Poetic Justice the film, the characters in both stories, and how they are reflections of one another. To close, we're going to unpack what all that says about the Poetic Justice Theory. So without further ado, let's get to it. Now, based on the rules laid out by Anthony Imbrunone regarding this theory, we're going to stick to the lyrics and how they are presented in the music video. If you want an in-depth breakdown of the lyrics, go back and check out part 1 of my series, How to Decipher Poetic Justice for Dummies. The reason I chose the subtitle, Looking in the Mirror, is because if Poetic Justice is supposed to be a love song, this is what was described the first time love was mentioned. If the first verse is about romantic love and the second is about physical love, then the third verse, and specifically this portion of the song, expounds on the idea of self-love. If you don't believe me, go look it up for yourself. You can just as easily do the research. That's why I'm so intentional about showing so much information on the slides and not showing my face, because I want you all to critique the content, not the person presenting it. Google says that to look in the mirror is to engage in self-reflection, to recognize how you appear to others. It's about having an honest and true look at yourself. We're going to break it all down, so now seems like a great time to warn you that this presentation does contain spoilers. If you haven't seen the Poetic Justice film, and if you don't want to know what happens, you might want to stop this presentation before we continue. You can always come back to it later after you've seen the movie. Also, let me go ahead and get this disclaimer out of the way. These are my thoughts and opinions. None of what I say in this presentation should be taken as fact. Everything in this presentation is open to interpretation, and I welcome any dialogue on this topic in the comments. Please be respectful, and if you feel yourself getting riled up, go touch some grass.
Poetic Justice just came out, the video.
Right.
That was high drama.
Yeah. My whole thing, I hate, when give people the expected, and I'm sure that's a soft song, people wanted me to be, lovey-dovey. But, I had other...
Show your romantic side,
right,
but instead...
Right. I had other ideas. I just wanted to, do something a little bit different. Something that's still within concept and reach, but just a little bit more of a thriller. More of a thriller.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
More of a thriller.
We're going to kick things off with the first visual from the music video. It looks like we are setting the stage for everything to happen under a full moon. The full moon is the peak of the lunar cycle. In astrology, this is when the moon directly mirrors the sun. This aspect is known as an opposition between the sun and the moon. And the opposition is one of the major aspects that can occur in astrology. It represents tension, polarity, and is often felt as conflicting urges between the two placements. Because the full moon has always been associated with spirituality, people around the world use it for divination and setting intentions to periodically gain better awareness and understanding. This event can lead to growth through acceptance and release. The full moon has also been associated with lunacy and strange behavior, like transforming into a werewolf, or how Goku and Vegeta become great apes after looking at the full moon in Dragon Ball. Regardless, I believe Kendrick used this imagery to set the tone for the music video. I know this was very intentional because he has shared in the past how fond he is of astrology.
I don't know, I'll probably putting up 30 points a game in the NBA or something like that. I don't know. Nah. I don't know, I'll probably be astrology, studying astrology, the moon and the stars. I don't know, I'll probably be astrology, studying astrology, the moon and the stars and all that shit.
Let's see how this energy from the full moon plays out in the rest of the video. I want to call back to this line in the song when he says, "Every letter here is true." We've seen how this influenced our understanding of the lyrics, so before we get too deep into it, let's make sure we apply the same logic to understanding the music video. In the very first frame of the music video, we see a disclaimer that reads, "All characters in this visual are entirely fictional. The events that occur are purely symbolic and should not be taken literal." And looking at the openings to the movie and the music video, we can see that they are essentially located in the same place. The bulk of the movie takes place in the daytime and is mostly set in South Central LA. We can also see that the music video is happening in the same place, but at night. And if you've seen the movie, you know all about the BS that happens at night. I believe the full moon is being shown to foreshadow some potential strange behavior in the music video. In the beginning of the film, Justice is on a date at the drive-in where she asks her boyfriend, Markel, to go to the concession stand to get her some snacks. While he's there, he gets recognized by what looks like some potential rivals. He comes back to the car and warns Justice about being recognized, but she is distracted by her desires and proceeds to seduce him from the back seat. They don't notice one of the guys coming from behind, and Markel gets unalived in front of her. We'll come back to this later, but for now, let's introduce our characters and their reflections. I'm not sure what her name was in the music video, but for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to refer to her as Love. More than anything, she is the object of Kendrick's affection. She literally lives life on an everyday basis with Poetic Justice. There are multiple reasons why Compton is lucky, but the main reason is the link to him wanting to have a conversation with Justice. You should know they initially were not feeling each other. He tried to Mac the first time he met her, and she let him know not to play in her face like that. When they ran into each other again on the road trip, it led to a big fight because Lucky called her a B after failing to spark a conversation. They obviously make up to the point she gets back on the truck. Now, we're going to delve more into how Lucky and Justice's relationship evolves over time, but for now, you should know that love wasn't always there from the jump. It should be noted that the only character identified by name in the music video is Drake. Drake represents the Chicago character from the film played by Joe Torre. Shout out to the bros. Root. As Chicago, Drake represents the man who is powered by his sex drive. In addition to his hypersexuality being reflected in Drake's character, here is an example of Chicago being warned by Lucky about his game. When the crew stops at a gas station, Chicago shares that he likes giving Isha money to, have nice things. No judgment here, but Lucky was extremely disappointed. He felt like his man was getting played. And he definitely lost some stripes, if you know what I mean. The whole time this was going on, Isha was in the store telling Justice how she doesn't take Chicago seriously. Says she barely has to do anything and then clowns him for being weak in the bedroom. Like Lucky, Kendrick tried to warn Drake about his weak game. Something else in this scene to point out is when Chicago was talking to Lucky about another woman who lived in Compton but said she was from Ethiopia. which is in East Africa. He also said she had a kid named Lamar. And you know, Kendrick Lamar is the good kid in a mad city of Compton. I just thought that was very interesting. He also thought he was slick because he tried to call Justice baby when her and Isha came to get on the truck. As the movie progresses, you can see Chicago grow more jealous of Lucky and Justice's budding relationship. I guess that's why he never took Isha seriously, because he may have had some strange feelings towards Justice. And like Chicago, it was strange for Drake to be calling love while she was with her other man. In the music video, we don't know the name of the woman that was in the bed with Drake. But for the purposes of this presentation, we'll call her Patience, because like how Isha was with Chicago, she tested Drake's patience. I don't believe either of these ladies were very interested in their guys, because they both just seem unserious and very unbothered. Now that we've introduced these characters, the first thing I want to point out as we go through the music video is the importance of eye contact in these visuals. During Kendrick's first verse, this was the first time that Love and Compton made eye contact. This shot kind of reminds me of a moment between Lucky and Justice. This look happens after both Lucky and Justice find out how superficial Chicago and Isha's relationship is. Not saying they had feelings at this point, but I believe this could be foreshadowing a shift in how they saw each other, since they had a little time to get over their little scuffle on the road earlier. The next moment with eye contact occurs between us and Kendrick. Kendrick makes direct eye contact at the camera when he says, "I write poems in these songs dedicated to you." Let's put a pin in this as we go through the rest of Kendrick's first verse. We're going to come back to this bar, but for now, let's call back to the 5 senses from the first presentation in this series. Remember, we held off on talking about the last sense, touch, and that was mostly due to the fact that it wasn't mentioned in the lyrics. But when you look at the music video, you begin to see how this sense plays a major part in delivering a message. The very first time Love and Compton touch happens when Kendrick says, "Curse this name." Now, if you take the idea that Kendrick is able to touch the people, the culture, and hip-hop in a way that Champagne Papi never has, you can see how this imagery is showing us that Drake can never have what Kendrick has, true love of the people. Even though he's as popular as he is and is widely known as a ladies' man, he doesn't have the touch of either of these women. And the women in this music video are metaphors for hip-hop. The end of Kendrick's verse shows a new character in a hat that says college. He looks like a significant player, and in my opinion, this character could be representing someone taking people out of the culture. He comes through looking kind of like a hater, and we all know how academia tries to downplay the culture, just like even some of our own like to downplay our intelligence. But I digress. When we go into the pre-hook, after conversation rule a nation, Love gives Compton an intimate caress on the chin before the energy shifts entirely. Throughout the video, there are these flashes on the screen with what could be interpreted simply as messages meant for us to decode that are somehow related to the story. Right when Kendrick says PS at the end of the first verse, there's a flash that pops up saying Enemigo on the screen, and chaos ensues. This was one of the first things I noticed that made me question the intent of this video. I don't know why I never noticed it before, because for about a dozen years, this went completely over my head. If you didn't know, enemigo is Spanish for enemy. But before I knew that, I really thought this was initially a play on words that implied someone you consider a friend who's really an enemy. Kind of like keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And if we're being honest, the fact that he used the Spanish word automatically implies that he wants us to translate the real meaning. As this goes into the hook, the energy in the video shifts. There appears to be something that happened that is causing the crowd to disperse. We'll notice that everyone is generally heading one way, while our guy Compton is heading in the opposite direction. We didn't mention it when we saw it earlier, but in the intro to the music video, we saw a black car that seemed to look like it was rolling through the groove, looking all suspicious. Now, after the chaos has ensued, we see that same black car now driving away from the chaos, implying that this could be the getaway car fleeing the scene of a crime. Before we go into the second verse, this seems like a good time to shift focus back to the movie real quick. I want to be sure we point out the themes that are consistent between the music video and the film. Now remember, we put a pin to go back to the line, "I write poems in these songs dedicated to you." While on a deeper level, he's speaking to hip-hop, to the culture. On the surface, this is a love song, and he's speaking to women with high taste, women who live life with poetic justice. In the movie, Justice carries around a book of poetry. We hear in the opening scene how she used to write poetry to Markel while he was locked up, and that really meant a lot to him. I can see how after what happened with him, she continues to write poetry to deal with the trauma of that experience, to grieve the love that was lost, and to somehow find a way back to herself so she can heal from it all. Lucky did his best to break the ice by even asking her about her writing. As time progressed, he kept coming back to it, recognizing it as a source of value to her. She was hesitant to talk about it at first, but the more she got to know him, the more she wanted to share what was in it. We're going to take a moment to catch up to one of the most pivotal parts in the film. As we've seen up until this point, the couples are making their way up the countryside, and after stopping to get some drinks, they roll up on a family reunion with some good barbecue and decide to crash the party. This was one of my favorite scenes because it shows how connected we are as a people. Lucky even said it in the movie. We black, we all family. In this scene, we meet the Calendar Sisters. Aunt April, Aunt May, and Aunt June, who was played by the infamous Dr. Maya Angelou, the writer for all the poetry in the film. Nothing major, but I find it funny that even Justice had a ghostwriter in the movie. Halfway through the stop, everybody jokes saying how Justice and Lucky make a cute couple, but this is honestly a moment where things change between them and they begin to connect. You can see the energy between them shift from animosity to playful curiosity. All it took was them being in a more intimate environment and a conversation, a moment to get to know each other. They go so far as to make cheeky assumptions about each other, and the irony of it all was how they both ended up being right. Now, going back to the music video, before Drake's verse starts, we see another flash across the screen that says, "One missed call." Even when the music video came out, I believe it wasn't as memorable because while everyone assumed this was a love song, they were unpleasantly surprised when the music video didn't match up with their expectations. Even some major publications may have had a few things confused about what was happening in the music video. When he starts his verse, it shows him leaving a voicemail. It seems he's calling someone while the chaos is going on at the function. You can't really make out who he's calling at first, but whoever it is, notice he's calling and leaving this voicemail while he's in the room with another woman in his bed. Another main point to make is, after he says, "You too busy effing with your other man," the screen flashes to show Compton and Love slain in the street. Later on, when he says, "That sound like poetic justice," we see the same couple slain in the street, but from a different angle. They are careful not to show too many details with these shots, but we can visually see that there is a narrative underlining this verse. Is he implying that Compton is the other man? If I may also stress that this is a major moment where Compton is touching Love. Even the thought that he was unalived with her adds an extra layer to the connection between the senses and reality. Let's continue. Whenever Drake looks at the camera, he looks very awkward. I see the first time occurring when he says, "You've been taken." And in that shot, he's kind of fading into the next one. The second time happens when he says, "It's all right here in the city and you don't run from where we come from." I just don't believe him when he's saying it right here. It looks very awkward, not to mention he's not from the city where the movie or the music video takes place. The last time he looks at the camera occurs when he states, "Good God, what you doing that walk for? When I see that thing move, I just wish we would fight less and we would talk more." Which is kind of crazy when you consider he implies how good God is as he makes a comment about the way a woman's body moves. He's honestly being led by sight and not by faith.
That is blasphemous. That is blasphemous.
You could also say he looks just as confused as he sounds. When we look at how Patience is reacting to Drake talking in her ear, we can see that she isn't impressed, and if we're being honest, she doesn't look very interested in what he has to say. We can consider her eye contact with the camera similar to how, Isha was responding to Chicago's advances in the back of the truck. Looking back at Drake's verse, his eyes don't tell the same story as the other characters in the music video. He has lying, insecure eyes, if you ask me. That's why he doesn't look like he's confident in his raps. You could say one of the themes in the music video in regards to Drake's verse is the lack of eye contact. Whenever he repeats the themes in the first verse, he's either looking away or looking down, and his face just looks so dark to the point where you can't even see his eyes, especially when he says the pre-hook. Not to mention, the last time we see him is at the end of his verse. Whether he wrote it or not, I'm pretty sure he doesn't believe what he's saying. Before we move on, I wanted to point out a couple of things from the song that contradict with the Justice character in the movie. The intro to the song could be from Chicago's point of view or embody someone with Chicago's energy. Why? Because it was focused on sex and refers to women as the B word, which basically goes against what Justice stood for. Remember, that's the main reason why she got into a fight with Lucky in the first place, because he kept calling her a B and she demanded her respect. Also, the part where Drake praises a woman's big ass in a sundress directly goes against how Justice saw herself in the movie. We find our crew on a quick stop at the beach when Justice tells Isha that she's thinking about going on a diet. Isha responds saying she's never heard her talk like that before and believes it may be because she's catching feelings for Lucky. Regardless, I don't think Justice found the idea of her ass being big very flattering. Not sure if Drake saw the movie before making the song, but the lyrics in his verse paints him as somebody Justice would absolutely not be interested in talking to.
I don't think that their theory is wrong by any way. And like I said, it's the most intriguing one that I've heard. Like that one and the peekaboo theory. Peekaboo. And the only difference between the poetic justice theory and the peekaboo theory when I talk about how diabolical it is because because of the timeline. Like if the poetic justice theory is real, like let's say yes, all of this is, if you take the timeline and the lyrics as Anthony describes them in his coverage of it, let's say that's real, right? Hypothetically, let's say that's all real. That would mean he has strategically placed these these breadcrumbs for 14 years.
I was going to say well over a decade.
Right. You know what I mean? Like that's like where you start thinking about things in a different kind of way. Like we're not thinking about him as someone who wouldn't give that much attention to this because he is embarking on his most important album, his major label debut. He's about to blow up. He's focused on this other thing. He's not worried about this other guy. If the theory is true, then now we have to shift that. And we have to say, actually, not only was he worried about this, it propelled him. It actually propelled him, right? And if it's propelled him, then now we have to start thinking about their Drake and Kendrick's relationship differently. We now have to start thinking about them as Joker and Batman, right?
Yeah, almost like an obsessive tandem. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe like you look at it like that scene in Dark Knight where Batman's like, "Why do you want to kill me?" And the Joker's like, "Kill you? I need you."
Bruh. Right.
Now I'm looking at this, and I'm taking this out of it. I'm putting this in a different framework if I'm thinking about it. And I don't know who's Joker and who's Batman in that metaphor.
I was thinking that.
Because there's a challenge with me with the premise that Drake was in this man's head to the point that he was going through all of this and continued with this for that long. It's a challenge for me to embrace that because I've also watched Dot not collaborate with people he doesn't like so many times.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's certain things that take me out of it, but I'm not closing the door on it because the timeline stuff adds up. I can't say that it doesn't.
The movie starts with Justice losing her boyfriend to gun violence at the drive-in. It's kind of obvious, but that is the reason why Justice initially comes off as mean when she meets Lucky. That's why she's not in the mood to entertain anybody trying to mac. She doesn't want to get dressed up. She doesn't want to keep her hair up like she should. She doesn't even want to hang out with Isha. She only went on the road trip because her car broke down and she needed a ride to Oakland for a hair show she was working. Immediately when they arrive in Oakland, They find Lucky's cousin Khalil slain in the streets, a victim of gun violence. You can tell how much losing his cousin affects him because the light in his eyes from early in the movie is completely gone. He's grieving his cousin, and that affects how he feels about the love he just found with Justice. The movie starts and ends with the main characters literally losing a loved one to gun violence. The courage to grieve through loss and still look for love despite these challenging circumstances, that is poetic justice. The second hook starts with the ambulance pulling up. Everyone is supposedly looking at the aftermath of the crime that has just occurred, but it's a little weird how much eye contact we're getting from all of the characters, including West Coast rap legends Dom Kennedy, YG, J-Rock, and of course, Glasses Malone. We can also take this time to point out how the words in the wardrobe of the movie are reflected in the wardrobe in the music video. Similar to the homeboy at the drive-in, Kendrick has a hat to identify where he is from. There was also a shorty who had on a hat that said caviar right before the third verse. Now pay attention. There was one person who was turned around that had on a hoodie that said, just begun. Now what just begun? I had to look up why a director would essentially have one person out of a group facing the opposite direction in a scene. What does that mean artistically? When I asked Google, it said this technique is used to instantly and effectively convey rebellion, nonconformity, or conflict. And this happened right after he said, I can never right my wrongs unless I write them down for real.
Lord have mercy.
Moving along, we should note that the last flash across the screen says, love hurts right before the start of the last verse. This entire start of the third verse is focused on this bird's eye shot of Compton and Lucky slain in the street. With this shot, we can finally see who's holding the phone. We can now confirm that it looks like Drake was trying to call love when her and Compton were unalived. The gravity in the lyrics reflects the gravity in this image. I'm not exactly sure what he's trying to say artistically, but if I could pick off a few points from Kendrick's music, I believe he's saying he's willing to die for her. If you're coming to kill hip-hop, to erase the culture, he's going out with her. Whatever he's saying with this image, he meant to say it just as much as he means the lyrics he writes. When he says, I'm talking poetic justice, he's looking at love while she's looking dead at us. She is not looking playful like Patience was earlier. She is looking just as judgmental as Justice does at times in the movie. The first time Kendrick makes eye contact with us in the third verse is when he says, I mean, you need to hear this. And while he looks intentional as he's looking at the camera, he's playfully looking away and all over the place while making eye contact at the same time. I believe this is the energy Kendrick was trying to portray in this song. He's dissing Drake, but he's speaking to the man behind the character. He's letting him know what to do. The question is, will he pay attention and will he listen? Now, to one of the most pivotal moments and memorable scenes in the movie. This scene lets you know how she's carrying the events from the movie's opening. While she's doing her best to keep it together, deep down you can tell she's really broken. The sounds of Stevie Wonder's Never Dreamed You'd Leave in Summer paint the emotions of this scene beautifully. You can tell that she's searching for something as she's looking at herself. She's not sure what she'll find or if she'll ever find it, but she can see there's something there that's gone.
Right in the middle, man. Just like Robin Hood, eh?
Janet's husband, Renee, had gotten a role in the movie as well, as the smack-talking post office employee, but was said to have always been around the set, sometimes lingering over her scenes, getting in frame. But he commanded respect, partially because he was connected to her.
Did you get to kiss her?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Is she a good kisser?
Oh, yes. 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 I was like, cut! Do it again! One more time, John, please! Y'all don't even gotta pay me. Do it again!
Was her boyfriend on the set?
Oh, right there. He's right there.
Did that intimidate you?
Not intimidate me, but it made me, like, really want to kiss her. You know what I'm saying? Because...
One of the most memorable scenes in the film is the mirror scene with Justice. As described in the film's companion book, both Singleton and Renee had high expectations for Janet's performance. Renee reportedly told him, "Janet knows she's going to have to dig deep for that scene, and we want to be prepared." The scene was filmed just days after the high-profile verdict that weighed heavily on the cast and crew. The following day, Singleton reflected on the impact of the scene, which had left the crew both impressed and deeply empathetic toward the youngest Jackson sibling. "She has a lot of pain," Singleton remarked. "She has to go through her music career being all happy."
I started performing when I was 7 years old, and I haven't stopped since then. So before that, I wanted to be a horse racing jockey. And I had my mind set on it. I knew that that's what I was going to be until I was asked to perform with the rest of my family. And I've been performing ever since.
You see, despite what many believed at the time, Janet's life was far more complex than just glittering performances and glamorous photo sessions. At only 25 years old, she had been married twice, both times to partners who would struggle with substance abuse, which brought its own set of emotional turmoil and heartache. She also battled deep self-image issues, constantly questioning her worth in an industry that scrutinized every detail of her appearance. Even in Singleton's write-up in Esquire about the film, journalist Joe Wood threw a jab about her nose, commenting about it. "Sad. Like so many Jackson faces. A shadow of what was." About a year after filming this scene, Jordan Chandler's allegations towards Michael would start making their way to the press, putting Michael and their entire family under a microscope. Janet would lose a multi-million-dollar deal with Coca-Cola because of it. She was trapped in a spotlight that often felt more like a magnifying glass, amplifying every flaw and shadow in her life. And in that scene, for that movie, she was able to let it all go.
She begins to find what was missing in Lucky. After the family reunion, they stop at an African market for a bit, and this gives Lucky and Justice even more opportunity to open up and get to know each other. They spark up some very pertinent conversations about love and being authentic. Justice even has something to say about what an artist says with the lyrics in their music. Notice how their touch gets more tender after the market. Their conversation gets more playful. After they let their guard down at the family reunion, touch becomes the vehicle where love begins to blossom. After the market, Chicago and Isha make up enough to get a little spicy in the back of the truck. Chicago doesn't last long, fulfilling the foreshadowing from the girls' conversation earlier, and a big argument between the couple ensues.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Isha lets it all out. What she really thinks of him, how much she doesn't want to be with him, and how she's been seeing somebody else. Chicago plays it off at first by continuing to brush his fade, but after she calls him weak and mentions how she's sleeping with someone else, he hits her and they begin to fight. Lucky is hesitant to break it up at first, not wanting to come between the two lovers in a quarrel. But Justice, she comes to the aid of her friend. After kicking Chicago and the family jewels, he starts getting physical with her. This is when Lucky comes to their defense and stands up to Chicago for how he handled the situation. Things get physical with them, and after Lucky bested him, he leaves him to walk the rest of the way to Oakland.
All of this is an extension of the Drake and Kendrick battle. I've always said, and the proof keeps showing, it seems like the people who supported Drake have no problem attacking women. It almost seems like they're more comfortable attacking women than they are men, because Kendrick Lamar has become Voldemort. Kendrick Lamar is the Baba Yaga to these people. He has become he's become Bruno. Like, they are terror in the Darkwing Duck, nigga, strike terror in the hearts of foes. But let it be Doechii. Let it be Serena Williams. Let it be a female who took a picture. Let it be the girl on the cover of this album he had with 21 Savage. They go so hard on women, I hope people pay attention to that.
After the big altercation with Chicago, Lucky pulls over to calm down and clear his head. Justice walks out to meet him, and while Lucky sits in silence, the conversation quickly shifts to Justice and her past experiences. She starts cleaning his nails as she continues telling him about her experience dealing with loss, specifically her mom and grandma. She tells him how she got the name Justice, but closes by saying she's all alone now. In that moment, it's as if Lucky sees her in a new light. Not just this young, attractive woman who he's interested in, but a woman who, like his daughter, needs someone to be there for her. He softly touches her hair as he leans in for a kiss. Overcome with emotion and probably grief from the last time she ever kissed someone, she takes a moment to step away and still herself. And then she returns to Lucky to finally open up to him. Not sexually, but through being honest and vulnerable. This scene plays out like the lyrics, where Kendrick talks about connecting with this woman's heart. Lucky was superficially interested in Justice because he thought she was kind of fly. Now that he's taken the time to get to know her and gotten a glimpse of what she's been through, he sees her now as a flower that bloomed in a dark room, a phenomenal woman who has had to endure a lot to be who she is today. That's why she doesn't entertain the foolishness. That's why she stands up for herself when another man tries to put her down. She knows her worth and what it takes to believe in herself, and that is the most beautiful thing about her. Now, ask yourself, based off of what he said in his verse, does this woman sound like someone who will be interested in anything Drake has to offer?
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
We've already mentioned how this pre-hook directly addresses the pre-hook from Drake's verse. I feel Kendrick's actions in the music video reflect the gravity of the lyrics in this message. During this final pre-hook, Kendrick continues to give us playful eye contact, but this time he adds some hand gestures that seem to be related to gun violence. At the very moment he says, "Right before you go blind," he motions like he's giving himself a double headshot. He could have done this for any reason, but I believe he wants you to consider the gravity of his actions when you attempt to interpret the meaning of these lyrics. As we go through the last hook, we see Hunter Ambulance coming to pick up the bodies of our fallen couple. I was curious as to why he labeled the ambulance Hunter, and after doing a Google search, I found some of these qualities associated with hunters very pertinent to this story. Patience, adaptability, and strategy. Drake started his verse by saying his woman tests his patience. Now, I'm not trying to imply that he hunted her down, but as far as being adaptable, I would look to how Lucky shifted his approach in pursuing justice. He initially tried to Mac when he first met her at the salon. After some time on the road, he settled into having a conversation, and from that point, he let her talk as he got to know her. That, to me, was a perfect example of adaptability. And as for strategy, we saw in the first presentation how Kendrick used themes across his and Drake's verses to ultimately tell a story. And we also saw how he used the third verse to knock his head off, based on what he rapped in the second verse. That is one of the best examples of strategy we've probably ever seen in a rap battle. It was so good, most of us didn't recognize it for over a decade. Now, if I may call back to our discussion about how Kendrick is very fond of astrology, the Orion constellation is very well known throughout antiquity and around the world as the mythical hunter. If you take a look at a star map when Kendrick was born, you will see that his sun is placed exactly on top of the Orion constellation. The sun in your birth chart represents your ego. While I can't be 100% certain, I would dare say that he used this hunter label as a way to feed or pay homage to his ego. Before we close out, I wanted to take some time to finish highlighting some themes from the film. Lucky was extremely distraught after finding out about his cousin. Still processing his emotions when he dropped the girls off, he snaps and assumes that if he wasn't messing with Justice, he could have been there to prevent this from happening. He may not have known what she went through with her previous boyfriend, but that was an extremely insensitive thing to say. It was one of those moments where he regretted it almost as soon as he said it. You could see it when he got back in the truck to drive off. Justice tried to put on a face like it didn't hurt her, but you can tell how it crushed her to hear that, especially after she had tried so hard to protect her heart from being hurt by love again. Now, I want you to go back and think about how in the first scene, Markel may have never been noticed by those guys at the concession stand if she didn't ask him to go get her something to eat. He also mentioned how he saw them, and if she would have been listening or paying attention, they could have left the drive-in before those guys had a chance to roll up on them. You could also say that she could have just as easily ended up laid out in the car as well. So as painful as it was for her to go through that, it is a blessing that she is still here. It's a blessing that she didn't let that moment destroy her. And it's a blessing that she still has an opportunity to hopefully find love again. I believe that despite how things turned out, when Justice returns home, she begins to see things from a different perspective, and it helps her to heal. She gets to the point where she starts to find herself again. Her clothes and her smile are a bit brighter after meeting Lucky. At this point, she doesn't know if things are ever going to get better, but at least she's willing to try. While she's at work with this newfound glow, guess who shows up? You can tell something is different with him as well. He's changed, and one could say for the better. He has his daughter with him, and he sits her down to apologize. While they didn't show it on screen, you could say he did a lot of reflecting in the mirror before he decided to come up there. It was no wonder why he showed up looking all fly. With his nails clean too? Now that we've seen how the film came to a beautiful ending, what can we say for the music video? Well, if you notice, after the last hook, the video has this effect that makes it look like it was rewound to the beginning. We're now back to one of the first shots, and it's as if nothing ever happened. We see Compton and his friends posted up laughing, literally joking and laughing, as Love walks by just as she did before. While I was doing this research, I had no idea what this was. I knew it was something pivotal because everything is something with this guy. I looked it up and found out that what we have here is called a circular or cyclical narrative. This is a plot structure that can be used to create contrast between what happened at the beginning and what happened at the end of a story. In this case specifically, we'll refer to this as the reset button technique, which can be used to restore the status quo after an extremely drastic event. This narrative element allows writers to explore what-if scenarios without permanent consequences. So you mean to tell me that Kendrick and Dave Free directed a music video where Kendrick and his woman hypothetically get shot during Drake's verse just so they could return back to the beginning like nothing ever happened and teach him a lesson about morality and self-awareness?
Damn!
We live in a world today where engagement is more important than the truth. Going along with the crowd is expected, and thinking for yourself is criticized. I remember they were conflicted, corrupted by their confusion. I mean, Buddy really thought I was trolling. How do we get to the place where me asking you to do something you claim to do all the time is seen as me trolling? When you say you don't understand something, and I provide you with an honest response to help you see things from a different perspective, now I'm trolling because you don't agree. I mean, they were so conflicted that they put their foot in their mouth with this foolishness.
Yeah, exactly. I said confirmation bias, exactly, and it's a common phenomenon. It's like if I make a statement right now and I'm dedicated to proving that statement right, I'm going to find certain things that put it in position where I'm able to present it. That's why niggas is able to like argue that rape isn't bad morally.
Huh?
Because that's what they're dedicated to.
Stop it. Get some help.
And they will go to the ends of the earth to find certain things to make it as if that shit is like the point that they're making is right.
Yeah.
Now that you've seen my argument, what evidence do you have to confirm my skewed perception of reality? I mean, it's unfortunate that there's some people who misuse their influence because they are conflicted. They'd rather deal in ignorance and confusion than look in the mirror. I mean, it's disgusting that they don't respect, honor, or protect our women to the degree that they should. And if there's anything that the culture should be leaving in the past, it's the people and the mindset that sustain this type of thinking. P.S. If you can't respect that, your whole perspective is whack.
And y'all got all that fuck with y'all because they think y'all can provide them some level of exposure. Because I don't care. I don't care. I'm not one of them. You better ask some of these about what I'm on. All I ask you to do is stop calling that lady out her fucking name. Yes, call her Music Mac. That's your job. Do your fucking job. Stop calling this black lady a bitch and all that shit because you making us look crazy. And I'm not with that. Stop calling this fucking black lady out her fucking name like that. I don't care what Act do. Act is black. That's his own problem he got to deal with. You are a white man. It don't matter your religion. You a fucking white man in this country. You better look in that fucking mirror. I don't care if it's 2025 or 26 or 27. Stop talking about that black lady like that. Whatever you do on the music is fine. You keep calling her bitches, bro, it's gonna be a problem on Olivia's soul, on my life. I don't know what y'all doing because I don't really care, y'all little kids. But you keep disrespecting this fucking black lady on this fucking platform. You influencing a bunch of little white kids to run around thinking they can call black ladies the same thing. And then when I thought maybe I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, bro, you running around this motherfucker, you talking about who got baby moms and kids. Bitch, I don't got no kids. But you gonna be my son, you keep playing with me.